our potential to provide those solutions through necessary financing. I extend my deepest gratitude to each of you for joining us at this pivotal summit. Your presence not only honors us, but also reaffirms our shared commitment to the International Development Association, our cornerstone for achieving the development goals of our continent and beyond our continent. We convene at a critical juncture, facing a convergence of global crises. This includes escalating geopolitical tensions that challenge international unity, a deepening development and debt crisis that threatens our economic stability, and urgent climate emergencies that demand immediate and collective action for our planet's survival. Today, we gather here. Kenya and the broader East Africa region faces severe flooding that devastated communities, destroyed infrastructure, and disrupted our economies. Concurrently, Southern Africa confronts intensifying drought, affecting nations like Malawi, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. Just last year, the roles were reversed, highlighting our shared vulnerability to extreme weather patterns. As I speak to you in this podium, 10,000 people in Nairobi city are displaced by floods. That is the gravity of the situation. Only a year ago, we had a devastating drought on the other end. This new normal demands our immediate and united action to safeguard our collective future. This underscores the critical role of IDA for Africa Summit. As a cornerstone of financing for Africa, IDA has directed 75% of its total commitments, nearly US $26 billion, to our continent in the last fiscal year, with African nations comprising 8 of IDA's top 10 borrowers. This support is not just financial. It is a lifeline for our development and also our stability. And your presence, personal presence, my friend Ajay Banga, in this meeting is a demonstration of the centrality of the discussions that will happen in this meeting and your personal commitment to this continent, which we appreciate. IDA stands out for its rapid and decisive action during crisis, distinguishing itself from other funding sources. Its demand-driven programs, combined with concessional loans of 40 to 50 years, empower borrowing nations to pursue sustainable long-term development strategies. And this is what we have been asking for: long-term, concessionary. We now want to discuss in this meeting scale. That is the only aspect that is missing in this configuration. And as Ajay Banka said, two things are missing: scale and design. Make it simpler. Now, more than ever, long-term concessional financing is vital. As many Africans and other developing nations face severe debt crisis, this financial strain hampers our efforts to combat climate change, transition to low-carbon economy, and adequately fund essential sectors like education, health, and social protection. We have frequently discussed the financial challenges that restrict our economic capabilities and reduce our investment in resilience and growth. High interest rates lead to unsustainable sovereign debt, complicate refinancing, and destabilize our currencies. Additionally, the rising cost of living, increased commodity prices, and supply chain disruptions severely impacting our food security, healthcare systems, and overall preparedness for response to crisis. Last year, we brought to global attention that African nations pay interest rates up to 5 times higher than typical World Bank IBRD rates. This year, the situation has worsened. Developing countries are now net contributors to the global economy, contrary to expectations of receiving net inflows. Projections, for example, for 2024 show a net outflow of US dollars 74 billion from IDA countries like Kenya and others to donor nations, while net financial transfers to developing countries have plummeted from US dollars 225 billion in 2024 to now a low of US dollars 51 billion in 2022. Those statistics are glaring by any measure. Given these conditions, sustainable growth remains elusive for African nations as we allocate more funds to debt service than to crucial sectors like education, health, and social protection. This financial strain was prevalent in 2/3 of African countries even before the pandemic struck. Notably, in 2020, 1 in every 4 sub-Saharan African countries dedicated over 17% of its public revenues solely to interest payments. The IMF reports that sub-Saharan Africa's ratio of interest payments to revenue has more than doubled in a decade, reaching nearly 4 times that of advanced economies by the end of 2022. As a result, over half of IDA recipients today face debt distress or are at a high risk of debt distress. IDA remains their most dependable source of patient capital, with every dollar of donor financing enabling an additional US dollars 3.5 in capital market leverage to amplify development impact. This endeavor transcends financial returns. It is about fulfilling our collective global aspirations. Africa's commitment to economic transformation, reducing poverty and inequality, and enhancing human well-being is essential and demands significant capital investment. Moreover, the global goal of achieving net zero by 2050 cannot be realized without Africa's active participation, a failure which would jeopardize humanity's survival, not just African survival, humanity's survival. It is imperative to understand with substantial investment in our vast energy resources, Africa can not only provide power to all its citizens, including the 600 million currently without access, but also significantly advance global decarbonization efforts. Let me say this broadly. If there was a case to be made for a win-win outcome, IDA is the best example, because everybody wins. The donors win, the recipients win. The donors win because it is an investment for them. For the recipients, it is an opportunity. In both cases, we have winners. The donors will put money in renewable energy, in energy in general, and we can continue world manufacturing and industrialization using African mineral resources, using energy that we have in abundance, and using labor that we have in abundance, and we can share the outcome of that industrialization with the rest of the world. By investing in IDA, we unlock 60% of the world's arable and cultivated land for food security and nutrition, not just for Africa, but for the globe. By investing in IDA, we unlock the human resource potential in our continent, Africa being the youngest continent in the world. Investing in education, in health, in social protection gives us the opportunity to provide 40% of the world's workforce by 2050. Investing in IDA gives us the opportunity to decarbonize global economy and provide for green growth. Let me say this. Our continent possesses 60% of the world's prime solar resources, and our untapped renewable energy potential exceeds 50 times the projected global electricity demand by 2040. However, realizing this requires a shift in investment strategies, with affordable long-term capital at scale being central. Our proposal and request entail a vision for an Africa-driven socio-economic development executed with transparency and inclusiveness, and our case is straightforward. Let me put it this way. Significant capital injection into IDA is crucial. The G20 independent expert group recommends tripling IDA's financing capacity to US $279 billion by 2030, while maintaining the essential concessional nature of its financing. At the very least, and if we cannot do anything else, let us not ignore or wish away this expert advice. We seek not just funding, but a partnership for progress. African nations propose a robust plan for climate-positive growth, aligning with the Nairobi Declaration from last year's Africa Climate Summit to ensure stable, dignified, and sustainable livelihoods across our continent. Africa is poised to transform its agriculture, water security, and energy access while creating job opportunities for over 4 million youths entering the job market monthly and expanding our small and medium enterprises as well. Central to these opportunities is our commitment to African-led initiatives. We aim to control our destiny, managing our resources responsibly and sustainably to drive Africa's industrialization agenda using our abundant energy, mineral, and human capital resources. Our commitment to transparency and accountability is in our socio-economic development plans, ensuring the efficient and effective use of IDA is central to our plan. We acknowledge the vital role of diverse stakeholders beyond governments and traditional donors committing to deeper and broader engagement to enrich our development outcomes. We are committed to empower the Africa Union Commission to make it fit for purpose, with capacity to engage the rest of the world on behalf of Africa. We are committed to reform the Pan-African Parliament to enhance oversight and accountability over the Commission and establish an African Court of Justice so that we are ready to engage with the rest of the world. Faced with the relentless challenge of climate change and escalating instability, our unity is our strength. Despite the myriad forces that threaten to divide us, we must remain focused on the ultimate goal, safeguarding the future of our civilization, the human race, and the diverse life forms that share our planet. Africa is eager to contribute to the solution. Our continent offers a viable and promising pathway to a future of prosperity for all humanity, harnessing our rich resources and innovative spirit. IDA's efficiency and effectiveness make it a unique force for good. Africa recognizes this and we don't take it for granted. We are setting an example with our ambitious plan for structural and systemic reforms underpinned by steadfast commitment to tangible results, transparency, and a robust partnership. Given the enormity of the challenge faced by African countries and its global implications as collective emergency, we call on our partners to meet us at this historic moment of solidarity and respond effectively by increasing their IDA contribution from the $93 billion raised in 2021 to at least $120 billion in 2024. As we make this call, we as African heads of state and government commit to play our part by taking deliberate and robust actions to improve fiscal discipline, increase domestic revenue mobilization, develop investor-friendly policies, and enhance anti-corruption measures. IDA exemplifies the best of global cooperation, characterized by compassion, lasting dedication, and a fruitful collaboration. By fortifying IDA, we do more than just honor these values. We significantly enhance our joint ability to tackle global challenges. Let us value and expand the reach and influence of this vital resource. Together, let us be bold, let us be ambitious, and let us act with conviction. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the President of Kenya, for that important keynote address. Thank you very much, Mr. President. This IDA for Africa Heads of State Summit is a critical platform for all heads of state and other leaders from across the continent, together to highlight IDA's impact and to call for a robust 21st replenishment resources in support of transformational development. An ambitious IDA21 will be a lifeline for a world in crisis, and in particular, here in Africa. And to speak about it, I am now extremely honored to welcome the heads of states to deliver their statements. I would like to call upon His Excellency Mohamed Ghazouani, African Union Chair, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. You're welcome, Mr. President.
Excellence, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, Président de la République du Kenya, Excellences, Madame et Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Monsieur IDA21, Président du groupe de la Banque mondiale, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants des donateurs de l'IDA et des institutions financières, Mesdames et Messieurs, je voudrais tout d'abord signifier à mon frère et ami, Son Excellence Dr. William Ruto, Président de la République du Kenya, qu'autant je le remercie, et à travers lui le gouvernement et le peuple kenyan frère, pour l'accueil chaleureux et l'hospitalité généreuse, autant je le félicite vivement pour la parfaite organisation de ce sommet IDA-Afrique qui constitue une étape cruciale dans le processus de la 21e reconstitution des ressources de l'IDA. Je tiens également à exprimer mes sincères remerciements au président de la Banque mondiale, M. IDA21, pour son leadership et son engagement en faveur de l'Afrique. Tout comme je remercie vivement, à mon nom propre et au nom de l'Union africaine, l'ensemble des donateurs et parties prenantes de l'Association internationale de développement pour la générosité et la constance de leur appui. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, Cette 21e reconstitution des ressources de l'IDA se tient dans un contexte continental et international particulièrement difficile et fortement marqué par des crises multiformes. Pandémie de la Covid, exacerbation continue des chocs climatiques, crise sécuritaire et politique, terrorisme et conflits armés en Afrique, en Ukraine, au Moyen-Orient et un peu partout ailleurs. Ces crises et conflits, au-delà des tragédies humaines qu'ils drainent dans leur sillage, impactent négativement et profondément l'économie dans le monde et particulièrement en Afrique, par leurs effets induits en termes de perturbation des chaînes d'approvisionnement, d'exacerbation de l'insécurité énergétique et alimentaire. Elles ont ainsi des conséquences massives sur les conditions de vie de centaines de millions de foyers dans les pays à faible revenu, en Afrique et dans le monde, et qui sont les principaux clients de l'IDA. Aussi, l'éradication de la pauvreté et de la faim à l'horizon 2030, qui semblait possible au moment du lancement de l'agenda du développement durable, sont désormais hors de portée pour la plupart des pays africains. De même, l'accès universel à l'eau potable, à l'assainissement et à l'électricité sont également un challenge difficile à relever. Les besoins de financement additionnels pour les infrastructures de développement ont ainsi été estimés par la Banque africaine de développement entre 68 et 100 milliards de dollars par an, tandis que les besoins de financement additionnels nécessaires pour que l'Afrique atteigne des objectifs de développement durable ont été estimés à 190 milliards de dollars par an. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, ce bref tableau de besoins de financement montre, si besoin est, l'impérieuse nécessité d'une 21e reconstitution ambitieuse et solide des ressources de l'IDA, au moment où plusieurs de nos États font face à des obligations et des contraintes multiples, service de la dette, choc climatique, conflits et afflux de réfugiés. Cependant, à elles seules, les ressources de l'IDA ne suffisent point. Pour financer notre développement, nous aurons besoin de ressources massives et de ressources massives de financement privé et de financement direct étranger. Nous aurons besoin de réduire les coûts de financement du capital à travers un mix approprié de ressources concessionnelles et de financement au coût du marché. C'est pourquoi je voudrais ici exprimer mon très fort soutien à la réforme engagée par le président IDA21 en vue de bâtir une banque mondiale plus grande, plus forte et plus efficace, une banque mondiale dans laquelle les différentes branches publiques et privées opèrent en synergie. Je tiens également à saluer ces efforts visant à réduire les délais de préparation des projets et à simplifier les procédures d'approbation et de mise en œuvre. Je me félicite enfin de sa collaboration renforcée avec le président de la Banque africaine de développement, mon frère le président Adesina, notamment dans le domaine crucial de l'accès à l'énergie. Et je formule le vœu que cette opération s'étende à d'autres secteurs et inclut d'autres banques multilatérales de développement. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, l'IDA joue un rôle unique dans le financement du développement en Afrique où elle intervient au niveau de 39 pays. 1,5 milliard de pauvres, dont un nombre important de nos citoyens, de nos concitoyens africains, ont bénéficié des financements de l'IDA. Ce rôle doit se renforcer alors que nous faisons face aux défis majeurs des changements climatiques. C'est pourquoi je réitère, au nom de l'Union africaine et en mon nom propre, mes remerciements aux pays donateurs de l'IDA pour leur générosité et appelle à une reconstitution ambitieuse et solide des ressources de l'IDA à la hauteur des challenges de notre époque. Le coût de l'inaction serait exorbitant en termes de fragilité et de précarité, de perte de vies humaines, d'années d'enseignement et d'opportunités de développement, de gaspillage de notre ressource notre jeunesse et de détérioration environnementale.
Environmental deterioration. We could avoid such a scenario by making sure that Africa is still on the path of inclusive and sustainable growth. For this, we have a need of human resources and also resources in natural capital, and it is to help us to transform our enormous potential the social to be able to reach sustainable development with which is value reconstitution of the resources from IDA. So convinced that our presence in this summit will help us achieve our objectives. I would pray that this gets to a successful end.
Merci beaucoup, Votre Excellence. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I would now like to take this opportunity to invite to the stage the Prime Minister of the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire, Robert Bourg-Mambe. Bienvenue.
Excellence Dr. William Ruto, Président de la République du Kenya, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs,
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, heads of state and of government,
Mr. Ajay Banga,
President of the World Bank Group,
Mesdames et Messieurs, les
ladies and
donateurs,
gentlemen,
les
funders.
Avant tout propos,
Before
je
I
voudrais
begin,
vous transmettre
I'd like to
les chaleureuses
share
et
with
fraternelles
you
salutations
the
de
warm
Son Excellence
greetings of His
Monsieur Alassane
Excellencies,
Ouattara,
Monsieur Alassane
Président de la
Ouattara,
République de Côte
the
d'Ivoire,
President of the Republic of
qui,
Côte d'Ivoire,
empêché,
who,
m'a demandé
due
de
to
le
other
représenter à
reasons,
ce sommet
asked
si
me to
important
represent him at
sur
this
la
very important
reconstitution des ressources
summit
de
on the
l'IDA
reconstitution
21.
of the IDA Resources
Je saisis
21.
également cette
I also
heureuse
take this
occasion
opportunity
pour adresser
to
mes
address
sincères remerciements
my sincere
à Son
thanks
Excellence
to
Dr.
Excellency
William Ruto,
Dr. William Ruto,
Président de la République,
the President of the
ainsi qu'au
Republic,
peuple kenyan
and also to the people of Kenya for the hospitality
de
and the
l'accueil.
quality of the welcome.
J'associe à ces
I
remerciements
would
le
also
président
to like to
de la Banque
reinforce
mondiale,
the thanks
Monsieur
of the
Ajay Banga,
to thank the President
pour
of
sa
the World Bank, Mr.
détermination
Ajay
à
Banga, for
réformer
his determination
notre institution
to
commune
reform our common
pour une
institution
grande efficacité des
for
interventions
better in efficiency in interventions and also accelerate sustainable development in our
Comme vous le
states.
savez,
Like
cet important sommet
it is this important
vise à
summit
renforcer la
also
mobilisation des
strategizes to
ressources de
mobilize
l'État
resources
pour les 3
either
prochaines années.
for the 3 coming
En effet,
years.
Les
So
gouvernements des pays à
the
faible revenu
governments of the low-income
aujourd'hui
countries need
faire
today
face à des défis
to also,
majeurs
they are faced
et
by
de plus en plus
major
importants
obstacles that are
dans
becoming
un
bigger and
environnement
bigger
de
in
ressources
an environment
En
where
ce
the
qui
resources
concerne
are
la Côte d'Ivoire,
limited. When it comes to
la
the Ivory Coast,
digitalisation, la
modernization of agriculture and the production sectors, development of the private sector and also employment for the youth are the main obstacles. With the security problems in the Sahel, the Ivory Coast has a high growing number of refugees and also who are more than in their millions today, who are also pressure on social services and also need a lot of government interventions. So we are calling upon IDA and to my country needs a lot of support from the World Bank to be able to be more resilient. That is why the Ivory Coast, which also came up to advocate for more resources from IDA, is also involved in following up on these efforts in reconstituting the IDA21. So it is with pleasure that my country, from the 9th to 10th October of this year, the African Economic Summit will seek to mobilize main finances and partnerships with Global Citizen and Bridgewater Associates to support the campaign to also reconstitute IDA21. And I'd like to also send an appeal to our funders and also to the World Group and its partners that they mobilize resources, IDA resources, to help governments to face the problems that are becoming more and more bigger and more complex. Ivory Coast supports all the efforts of the World Bank and its partners. I thank you all for your attention.
Merci beaucoup, Votre Excellence. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for those words. I would now like to call on His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, to give some remarks. You're welcome, Your Excellency.
His Excellency William Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya, the Chairperson of the African Union, President of Mauritania, and their Excellencies, the heads of state and government. This is a topic I can speak on for the whole day. I'm therefore glad we have had this meeting where the presidents of Africa meet with some of the Western leaders. The crisis which is in Africa today is because of philosophical, ideological, strategic, economic mistakes, which we have been talking about since the 1960s. This is not an accident. When you see the crisis in many of the African countries, the collapse of states, we predicted this in the 1960s. Philosophical, ideological, strategic mistakes. I don't have time to amplify each one. But I was very happy to hear the President of the World Bank talking about prosperity instead of profiteering. These were his own words. That's what I picked. This has been the problem. Aid has been for profiteering. This has been the problem. Now, the World Bank people and other groups have been talking of sustainable development. Even in your documents, I have seen those words there. Sustainable development. I am now going to be 80 years old. I have never seen sustainable pregnancy. That a woman is pregnant this year, the pregnancy continues the next year, 3 years, 4 years, it never happens. In life, pregnancy develops sustainably within the womb of the woman. Quantitatively, the baby is growing bigger and bigger. But at some stage, quantitative growth must be transformed into qualitative change. The pregnancy must become a baby. If the pregnancy remains pregnancy, the fetus will die. So therefore, I would even ask you to change those words in your documents. Africa does not need sustainable what? You could call it sustainable underdevelopment. Africa needs socio-economic transformation. The pregnancy must become a baby. The baby must grow and become a teenager. The teenager must grow. That's what happens in life. You cannot have quantitative growth and you think you are doing anything. The main reason why there is no growth is because the growth factors are not funded. They are not even understood. What are the growth factors? We now talk of private sector-led growth. Yes, but for the private sector to grow, what does it need? It needs low costs of production. Ministers of Finance, low costs of production. And what are the low costs of production? Number one, transport. You must have low transport costs. Where do low transport costs come from? From the railway. If you don't fund the railway, how will you get low transport costs? Wonderful people, Banco Mundial, IMF, all of these. Where will low cost of production come from if you don't have a railway? How